This is the Get Better Everyday podcast with Matt Gouget. Actionable advice from real life superheroes who, just like you, are in relentless pursuit of the best version of themselves. Join me as I interview the best of the best in business, sports, and life. All right, Get Better Everyday podcast with Matt Gouget. I've got Brian Randall. This guy closes a ton of car sales, and I see him all over the place posting wins with clients. And so I'm super excited to have you on today. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Matt. It's a pleasure, man.
Cool. We're talking a little bit offline about, what, made me reach out to you, because I see you out there winning. I see you out there sharing your wins and doing what you're doing with high energy. And so I had to reach out. I got to know a little bit more about what drives you. And so, go back as far as you want, but tell me, as short, as long as you want, who is Brian Randall?
Yeah, so I got you, man. So as you guys know, my name is Brian. And once again, I want to thank you again, Matt, for having me on the show. So long story short, I grew up in sports. I grew up playing sports a lot. I was diehard soccer player. I played from the age of 6 all the way to about the age of 18. I went professional and then got hurt. So, I had to find something after that moment, that really drove me, that sparked attention, and that really, I could put my focus into, because that's all I really knew was sports. Just that's all I really knew. But yeah, a buddy of mine in the past, he introduced me to the car business. And then, I was kind of scared at first. I was just like, can I do it? Can I sell? Am I going to sell? Like, how do I sell? I was so confused. I started at 18. So, just fresh on the line, and, had to really learn the hard way, I had to learn by mistakes. I had to learn by actually doing it. And once I got a hang of it, the feeling of making someone else smile and knowing that you did that. And, there's no feeling, there's no feeling to match it. And I just fell in love with the feeling of helping people and truly helping people. And, that's where it's kind of different nowadays. There's really not much customer service. There's really people that's not customer driven or really love what they're doing and do it with, pleasure. And that's one thing that I always told myself: if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it all the way. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to give it my best shot and just give it my all. If I don't succeed, it's okay. I gave it my all, But
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I got in the car business, and I fell in love with it, and I can't stop. I just can't stop,
So
man.
how long have you been doing car sales?
Since 2015.
Okay. So going on 8 years, and you've built it. You're obviously doing something right, because you told me you're closing 15 to 25 sales a month. I'd love to hear from you too, because I love learning while doing. And I think it's the best way to do it. I'm the same type, where reading books is one thing, listening to podcasts and YouTube videos is one thing, but getting in there, learning as you go. What are some things that you learned in those first few years that, looking back now, maybe it's laughable, but you had to learn by doing?
Oh man. So first of all, it was I had to adapt. I had to adapt within myself and find out what type of salesman I am. How do I speak to people? How do I approach people? Or, how do I look presentable to people? So the first thing I really, really had to focus on, man, was how to speak to people, how to really engage into a conversation and really listen. And not only listen, but listen to apply, listen to find out that certain need, because you never know at the end of the sale, that need that you listen to it's the icing on the cake. So I had to learn to listen to people, and I had to learn to adapt to different people, different lifestyles, and you know spark an interest in certain people that you can't spark with other people. So you got to really learn people and understand people. And not only that, you got to look presentable. That was something I really, really struggled with, because I didn't know how salesmen, or, how they were supposed to dress or anything. So, I just showed up with a button up and some slacks and, some shoes, and called it a day. And, I thought that was it. And then I look over to my left, and I'm just like, oh, he's pretty fly. Look over to my right, oh, he's pretty fly. And I'm over here like, oh, maybe I didn't get the memo, you know? So I had to, you know, learn how to dress. And, you know, that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was really, honestly, as easy as it was hard to understand um the method of selling, or, you know, the full open to close sale, like, you know, the whole entire thing. It can take, it depends on the customer, you know. It depends, like, I can close a deal in an hour, I can close a deal in 45 minutes, I can close a deal in 10 minutes. It just depends, you know, what that customer needs and how fast I can find that need, and what they're looking for, and if we have it in stock. You know, that's one of the hardest things as well, if we have it in stock. So, you know, selling over the pandemic and things like that, it was hard. You had to learn different objections. You had to learn how to sell a car without it being there. You know, there was a lot of things. But growing up, I learned I learned how to approach people respectfully, adaptive listening. I also just learned different people, different lifestyles, you know, and been different places, different dealerships, learned a lot of different products. So it's like, you know, now it's just apply it. And, you know, that was the hardest part, was learning it. So
Yeah.
now that I learned it and done it over and over and over, it's just repetition. It's coming like cake. You tell me what you need, you tell me what you want, I'll point you out to it. If you don't like it, I got another option for you. There's always ways around it. But that was literally the hardest one, was trying to sell and how to approach, because that first approach is everything. Everything. That first handshake, that first greeting, that first laugh, the first smile, that's everything. That's going to tell you if you have a connection or not. Not only if you have a sale or not, you got to connect first. It's that connection. Once you can connect, oh man, you can do anything, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, there's a lot of nuggets in there that I want to dig out. One of them was just the listening piece. And so, you know, I run a mortgage business. I'm around a lot of mortgage professionals. I'm around a lot of real estate professionals. You know, a lot of people would just think that like sales is sales. But I know, and I think you know too, that every individual is so unique. And so the listening part is really important, because you know, you're trying to figure out how to solve what each individual is looking for, and what their needs are, what their wants are, and whatnot. So like, how did you hone that on the fly over time, being able to listen? Because I would imagine, I know who I was at 18, and I wasn't in any position, you know, I would have thought that I'd walk out and I'd greet somebody, be like, hey, we got this model, it does this, it goes 0 to 60. And I would have just spit out everything, right? And so was there some of that for you? Did you had to learn to sit back and listen? How did it come to be that like you got to where you are now with that specific skill set?
Correct. So, you know, when listening, I was the same way, man. I was young. I was just like, hey, you want this car? You know, yeah, you looking at this car? Okay, yeah, yeah. You know, and I wasn't listening. I was more onto the sale. And, you know, when it got time to actually sell the car, I was asking questions that were already answered by the customer. So, you know, it was kind of a little bit of frustration with them. They're like, well, I told you that. I'm just like, oh, sorry. Like, you know, it's like, you know, you have to learn like right then and there. So after that point, when the customer, you know, like kind of put me on blast, I was just like, you know, I gotta listen. I gotta listen, because there's some key information here that I'm missing out on. And once you just learn who the person is, like, you just learn, you just start with a simple conversation. Just, hi, my name is, and you are, you know, and it goes off from there. You ask them what they're looking for, you know, and then the easiest part about doing that is that it's who I am. I'm a very nice person. I treat everyone with respect. You're going to get an absolute killer experience with me, whether you have shoes on or not, whether you got holes in your pants, or, you know, whether you're dressed to the T. You're going to get the same exact. I give the respect to everyone, no matter what. And there's actually a funny story behind that as well, of not, you know, judging people, you know. I could tell you that story in a bit, but yeah, just I had to listen because I got put on blast. It wasn't a good feeling there when they're telling you you're asking 2, 3 questions, and each question was like, "Oh, I told you that in the beginning, man." Like, "Oh, were you listening to me?" And it's just like, yeah, I was, so
Yeah. I was thinking about all the different things that I could sell you on because this car got this feature and that. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that over time, being 10 years in mortgage and 42 years old, I know how naive I was now, 18, 25 and earlier on. So I want to dig that story out of you because people love stories. And before I do, I will tell you a quick one. Before I did mortgage, I managed a card room. And my ability to talk to all people is one of my biggest skills in mortgage, in my opinion. And so you talked about like not judging someone because they don't have shoes. I managed a card room that was on the border of a really nice neighborhood and a not so nice neighborhood. And so I told people after I got into mortgage that I learned the skills of talking to everybody, partly from my upbringing, going to public school, going to a rough high school. But then in that card room, I was dealing with pimps and prostitutes to politicians and everything in between. And so, I treated them all with respect. They were all clients. And the same goes for mortgage, and the same goes for you, right? Is it like you're going to deal with, all socioeconomic backgrounds, and, some people might appear one way, but actually, be something different. So tell us that story, because now I can't not ask. I got to hear the story.
Oh man, I got you. So it was, I believe, the second dealership I was at. I was at a used cars. I was in the used car department. I was able to sell new and used. However, this day I was in the used cars. So, it was a good day. I had got a few units out, so I was really happy. And it was getting towards the end of the day. And what I assumed was a homeless person, walks on the lot. And like I said, like, he had one shoe on, like, and, he's just walking barefoot with the other one. The shoe that he does have on had holes. His pants were like, he was dirty. He really looked homeless, like, and I was just willing to help, just willing to help. So I greeted him. He was on the lot. He was looking at cars. I greeted him. I was like, "Hey, how you doing, man?" He's like, "I'm doing well." He was like, "I'm not gonna waste your time or anything. I'm here to buy a car." I was like, "Well, let's do it. How's your credit and everything?" And he was just like, "I don't really have that much credit, but I have cash." He was like, he said, "I have it stored in a special place, and I want to pay out cash. I just need something that's 40,000 or less." I said, "Let's do it, man. Do you see anything you like?"
I got you.
Do you see anything you like, man? We got this option for you. We got this option for you. Let me know. So he was like, "I want a new one." I was like, "Let's go get you a new one then." So I think he had bought, like, I think it was a Corolla at the time, because I was with the Toyota. And I never knew it can happen that fast. It's just like, whoa, like, don't judge. He came back. He was like, "I'll be back." And we picked out a car. It was a Corolla. He was like, "I'll be right back." I was like, "Okay." And as a salesman or a salesperson, when a client tells you they're going to be back, 9 times out of 10, sometimes they won't be back. So it's very rare to have a be back. So I was just waiting. It took him about, I'll say, 45 minutes, and I was just like, is he going to come back? Like, was he serious? Like, well, let me try to just enjoy the day. Let me try to get the car ready just in case he does come. And then he came back, and he had a duffel bag. I was like, no way. I was like, this guy's legit. So he comes in and he just drops the bag, and it's 40,000 cash. Managers and I had to count it, so it was all there too. So I was just like, whoa. He drove off with his car, and ever since then it sent me scratching my head, like, wow, like, just never judge. You never know who can be. Well, you never know when your sale is. You never know when the person is at the end of that sales funnel when ready to buy, like, So ever since then, I told myself, oh, everything's a sell.
Yeah.
Everything's a sell. After that, like, I locked in. And after that, that's when I had reached 25 cars after that month, because I was just so stuck on that feeling of, if someone's here on the lot looking at a car, they're here to buy.
Right.
9 times out of 10, they're in the buying stage. Like, you got to find out where they are. You got to find out what they want and how you can close them. And that's the game I love playing every day. It's a puzzle, and I love putting the pieces together, because when you put that piece together, it's a beautiful piece. It's everything falls into place. They're happy, you're happy, and not only that, it's a sale. Like, you gain a friend. There's some sales where I'm still friends with those people now, and if they have any car needs, they'll send friends to me, referrals, or they'll ask me a question. Hey, I'm looking for a new car. What do you think? What do you think of this brand? Can you help me out? So, it's a really good feeling, not only getting that sale, but gaining a friend as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I could just tell the, a few minutes with you here that, that whole saying, people might forget what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. Like coming onto the lot, talking to you, I'm sure people are like, man, dealing with Brian was fun.
Definitely.
And trying to create that in my business in mortgage, where nobody wakes up and wants to get a mortgage. Like nobody's excited about filling out a loan application, but I remember specifically trying to make it as enjoyable as possible. Like, if we're going to do this, we might as well have fun doing it, and, fun closing pictures and enjoying the experience. That's something that I want to talk to you about, because I love when I see people getting better every day. I see people winning, but as important, out there showing it and sharing it, to inspire others. So what got you started with, sharing some of these fun client experiences and sharing it like you do on Facebook when, somebody gets a new car, they're smiling, you're smiling, I'm smiling looking at it, right? So
Definitely.
when did you start with that?
So I started in the past. When I first started, they wanted us to start back in 2015. However, I wasn't comfortable on the camera. So I was never comfortable on the camera, so I never did it. So after the pandemic, I got really familiar with the camera, because I started, playing games and streaming and stuff like that. So I got a little bit familiar with the camera. So I was just like, I was at a dealership, and a buddy of mine, he was doing it, and he was just like, just, you never know, because that's another way to market yourself. You can gain leads that way as well. So if you want to step your game up, you might want to get on Facebook, create an account, and this and that. I was like, okay, let's do it. So I did it. And at first, like, I was super nervous. I wouldn't show my face. I would just show the car and describe what the car is. And then one day I was just, in confidence and feeling myself. So I was just like, let me go on camera one time, and let me see what it would feel like, and let me see how I would look on camera. And, I did it, and I got comfortable with it. And I was like, okay, let me do this different. Let me do this. So I started engaging with it more and more. And once I received a sale, I was just like, they were super happy. They were just like, thank you. The kids were smiling. The parents were smiling. They were jumping up and down. Oh, we got a new car. Mom and dad got a new car. It's a good feeling. And I was just like, hey, do you guys mind if I, take a quick picture and put it on Facebook and share how happy you guys are? And they're just like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, cool, let's do it. So, that's when the selfie game just come up, just take a quick pic and throw it up. And I did that once, and I got a lot of feedback. Everyone's like, "Oh wow, that person's really happy." So I had a saying, was like, I always wanted to make you smile at the end with the sale. If you're not smiling, I didn't do my job. But if I sold the car, I did my job. But if you're not smiling, I didn't really do my job. And I just was customer focused on that smile, and on making them feel comfortable, making them, like, basically the dealership is my home. You're coming into my home. I'm going to make sure you're good. I'm going to make sure you're fed, treated right. Anything you need, I'm going to take care of you. So, there's a lot of things that come forth with selling, not only getting to know the person, and, but like, offering them some water. You never know how that can make them feel, or, if they were thirsty at that moment. But it's just a simple gesture of letting them know you're not a salesman. You're a human being first, because salesmen, they have a bad rap already. There's been a few times where a few customers come up and they're just like, hey, like, leave me alone. And I'm just like, hey, I get it. So it's just, I love it.
I'd love to hear about that, because I know from personal experience, and then I know just kind of the reputation. I think it's evolved, right? And so I walk onto a car lot, you've got a suit and tie, a lot of people's conception of the car dealer is like, you come swooping in, right? And it's like, you're like a shark and there's prey out there in the water. How has it evolved since you started, 8 years ago? in the car game where, you know, it's not like, you know, slick backed hair and walking out there and smooth talking, because I've actually had a few experiences where, you know, the smooth talking, I kind of enjoy it a little bit, but what have you seen from your side?
Oh man, I've pretty much seen it all. So when I first started, we were still back the dealership that I was at. It was in Napa, California. So it was crucial, you know, it was still very rugged back then. Like, you know, there was still could be fights that break out on the showroom floor, and you know, there are salesmen that still argue with each other. I mean, like, you know, it was a cutthroat game back then. Like, you know, you had to stand outside in the heat, cold, rain, whatever it was. You were on that front line. You were watching that driveway. You're watching all the traffic, but you were watching that driveway because that's your sale. Back then, you had to scream up or scream the color of the car or what kind of car it was, and you had to be quick. And if you weren't quick, that's your sale gone, or that's an opportunity gone.
Well, somebody drives in, just real quick so I get it, like, you know, a yellow Volvo drives in, you're like, yellow, and then it's
Yep.
like, that's me, that's
Yep.
me. And so,
Yep.
so then if there's 6 sales guys there, you know, whoever calls it first gets it.
Correct. So
Okay.
everyone, you know, there was no list. Like there's some dealerships that I've been at that have a list. It works in some ways, but you got to get lucky, because if that's your time on the list and that's the correct customer, you know, it was just playing a game. So when you're really out there, that's where the shark saying came in. You know, you can hear up from anywhere. It's whoever says it first. So, you know, I will just sit in a position where I can see it first every time. Like, in, you know, a lot of salesmen, they caught on back in the day of where I was sitting and why I was sitting there. So, you know, you'll see a blue car come in, oh, blue. Oh yeah, you know, you know, that's your time to move. That's your time to groove now. You know, you got an opportunity. Or you just yell up. You yell up, or you yell blue, or you yell the type of car, oh, Chevy coming in. And you know, all the salesmen, they're like looking, they're like, oh, like, you know, how I missed that. But yeah, it changed a lot. It's a lot of more respect between the salesmen that I've noticed at the dealership that I'm at now. It's a lot more respect. When I was back in Napa, that was my first dealership. I actually had a salesman jump in the car with me during a test drive, and you know, it was oh man, it was horrible. It was basically, I did all the work. It was about 30 minutes with these people, and they wanted to show their mom the car. And I was like, okay, yeah, like, where do they live? Let's go show your mom the car. Let's go pull up. Let's go show her, and I'll show her everything. They're like, yeah, let's do that. So it took me a while just to get them on the test drive, and better yet, to take it to the mom's. So I took it to mom's, but on the way, we were getting ready to leave. So I'm checking the car and make sure everything's good. So I open my door, I get in, and next thing you know, the other door opens and another salesman gets in and sits down with me. And I'm just like, you know, it's my first time in the business. I don't know if this was okay. I don't know if he was sent to shadow me, you know, I don't know, but it didn't feel right. So, you know, it was like a 20-minute drive too. This whole time, this guy's just saying, you know, oh, you don't want to buy this car, or like, you know, this car is made cheap, and it's just like, you know, trying to kill the sale. So not only do I have to listen to that, I have to counteract it, you know? This is the point where it really turned me into a salesman, because I was put on the spot. I had value into the vehicle. I had rapport with the people. I got to know the people. So, you know, thank God they were on my side, but he was just like, they kept ignoring him, but it was
What was his game? What was he doing?
oh man, he was trying to kink me. You know, he was trying to get my sale, or, you know, kill my sale because it wasn't his turn. You know, it was just a very sneaky.
I thought he was trying to get in the car at first to have a split or something and split the deal with you.
That's what it was. That's
but
exactly
then he's trying to kill the deal and reset a new one. Who knows, man?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, crazy. I'm sure you got some crazy stories, and I want to try to pull out the craziest story you've had in the car business. But before that, you said something earlier, talked about learning, you know, about the business, and Matt Ishbia, who's a, you know, mentor of mine. One of my favorite sayings that he says is knowledge drives confidence. So, yes, you know, tell me a little bit about, in your industry now, 8 years in, you know, you present yourself with confidence, and I'm sure that it shows up when you talk to people that come on the lot. not
Yeah.
just that, you're smiling and you're happy and you're treating them like it's home. But then you start talking about what you're selling, you're knowledgeable about it. That drives your confidence. Tell me a little bit about how that works for you.
Of course, knowledge is key. Knowledge is key. If the customer knows more than you're not going to have a sale. It's going to be quite embarrassing if the customer will tell you the horsepower of the car without you. And don't get me wrong, there's been times where I've had some smart customers, that already knew exactly what the game was. And, they've been in the car business. So the knowledge is everything, because if they know, they're going to test to see if you know. So 9 times out of 10, you better know what you're talking about if you're trying to sell something or know your product. And, that's one thing I fell in love with, was knowing the product, testing the product, driving the product, so that I can explain to the customer why they should pick this product over the next one. So, I had to get certified. I've been certified with, I think, 4 or 5 different dealerships certified. So I know the product very well. So once I get used cars in and it's in my field, I'm not missing a beat, because I know the knowledge of that car. So, that was the easiest and hardest thing, was the knowledge, because there's some dealerships that have multiple engines or multiple trim levels. And, so you just got to know your game, and you got to know what model fits your customer's needs is the most important thing. And they're going to tell you that, but for them to tell you that, you have to ask the right questions. And that's what I had to get knowledge about too, was what questions to ask and what time to ask those questions. And once I got that knowledge down, and once I studied my product, it's just, there's no missing. They have a question for me, I'll answer it just like that, and I'll move on to the next step, because I'm so comfortable with it. So it's, knowledge is everything. Everything.
Yeah. Knowledge and hard work. And we didn't speak about it, but I'd love to hear about translation from, on the path to professional soccer. You get injured and you go into the car business. I know so many people that you look at them, you're like, man, this guy's got relentless work ethic. This person knows how to put in the work and get results. And then you learn they played sports. You're like, okay, so countless examples that I have of people that, championship level at sports, and then it just translates to the business field. What's some of the things you took from soccer and, training or work ethic from that and applied it to your business?
Definitely. So I was always a hard worker. I was always one of the hardest workers. I've always wanted to win. That was the thing, I know we all do. I hate losing, man. I love to win. So that's what really started my drive as well, was just winning. And what I took from the professional world to the soccer world was the professionalism, how to act in a field of that sort, or, how to get along with people, how to, engage in a different way where people are very happy. And that's what soccer really taught me, was a lot of discipline too. So I had a lot of discipline. I was very professional. I was, in the game to win. So I just, treat it like it was a playbook or practice. Every time my practice for the car business is studying objections, studying the next product that's coming out, or, learning something that I didn't know about my product that I can share with the client. So I just, that discipline, that drive, the drive to win, do things a certain way. There's a process. You start with the fundamentals, and that's how kind of it revolved with transferring over from the professional world to the car business. You just remain yourself, and, just learn that game, how you learn this game. It's going to be different, but, you got to adapt. And that was something I thought that I couldn't do, honestly, was adapt from the sports world into the normal world or sales world. So being able to do that was a huge step for me. It was huge.
Yeah. I see you out there winning. And so, yeah, it's the same stuff. And, whether it's the car business or mortgage, I was at a conference last week and they talked about, whoever practices the most wins the most. Right.
Yeah.
And whether that's in sports, and it's like relentless work ethic where you're practicing 2 hours a day and you're getting better every day. The same thing happens in business, right? Like somebody could be smarter than me, But if I'm digging in and I'm getting better 2 hours a day, knowing mortgage guidelines, how to read rate sheets, follow mortgage-backed securities, how to speak to clients, how to pull that need out of them and listen, like you talked about listening, you're just going to be better. So I love to hear that too. I love seeing people win in business that have had, a successful career in sports, but like in your case, you got injured. And so that ended it abruptly. I'd love to hear from you, your craziest story in the car business. Cause I'm sure, you're dealing with the public. A lot of us out here in the business world in one manner or another are dealing with the public. So you don't have to share the specific dealership or anybody's name. But I'm sure you've dealt, with, either a crazy deal or a crazy person or both. Tell us a fun story from the car business.
Definitely. Yeah, that one story when the salesman, he jumped in the car, that was a crazy one as well. Let's see. Well, the homeless guy too, that was a crazy story. I don't really
a guy with 40,000 in a duffel bag that came looking ragged. That's definitely a crazy one.
That was a crazy story. I don't really. What is the craziest thing I've seen on the lot?
Well, if you can't think of a crazy one, maybe one that was a big win or one that you'll always remember. I know personally in the mortgage business, I did a loan for a veteran who bought his first house at 57. And long story short, he's at the closing table crying. Never thought he'd buy a house. So I start crying, the realtor starts crying. And that's to see the joy in another man's face for accomplishing something he never thought he'd accomplish. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'll never forget. I'll never forget Dave and his first home purchase, as a veteran of this country. So can you think of any stories of, single mom who bought a car or something that, will live with you forever?
Yeah. So there was this one story. It was the first car that I actually sold. It was an older lady. She was very sweet. She hadn't bought a car in some years. I think it was like close to 15 years she hasn't bought a car. And I was working for Jeep at the time. So when I was working for Jeep, I was going back and forth with her. We didn't have the car, so I had to find the car for her. Turns out the car was in Ukiah, I believe it's for Ukiah, California. And it was way up north. It was probably about, I think it was 3 or 4 hours from where I was from. And I got the car. I told her, I found the car for you. However, it's hours away. I want to know if you're ready to do this because I'm ready to drive 6 hours away and bring this car back for you. So, can we come to an agreement? And she was just like, yes. She's like, if you bring this car for me, like, you don't understand how happy I'll be. Then I was like, okay. So, we did the deal. I went all the way to Ukiah. It was a beautiful drive. I ended up taking a 4x4. It was a Ram. I think it was like a 3500 long bed, all the way like for a few hours. And that was my first time really driving a truck. So I was just like, okay, like, this is pretty cool. Young guy going all the way for a dealer trade. And then I come back and it was the next day. I called her up and she literally lived right down the street from the dealership. Called her up and I was like, hey, I got good news. Your car is here. She's like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, it's here. Do you want to come down and see it? She's like, of course. She starts flipping out. She's like, I'll be there soon. I was like, sounds good. So I had got it washed. I had got it gassed up. It was full already because we solidified the deal already. So she was just here for delivery. So I made sure it was clean, gassed up, and I pulled it up in front for her. And she like pulled up. She got out of the car, and you can just tell she was crying. I was like, "Are you okay? Did anything happen right now?" She was just like, "No, like you don't understand how excited I am." She's like, "I'm very excited, and I'm excited because you did this for me. We couldn't find the car, but you found it for me." And it was a Jeep Renegade. It was like the new one. They were new when they first coming out, so everyone wanted them. They were in high demand. So she got one of the first ones, and she was so excited, and like she just couldn't thank me enough. She was thanking me, and that was like as a first sale, and to get that engagement, that's when I was just like, yeah, like
I'm hooked. I'm in.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I know that's one of the reasons you're going to continue to have success, whether it's cars or anything else. And, that's one of our core values at U Mortgage: relationships, not transactions. And so I can tell you enjoy it, and I see it all over Facebook and with all your sales. Any parting words for the Get Better Every Day community?
Oh yeah, so hey, you never leave a deal crying when you work with Brian. Just remember that.
You never leave a deal crying when you're working with Brian. If you are crying, they're happy tears, man. Thanks for joining me.
Of course, thanks for
I
having me.
appreciate you. Yep.